Hello everyone, my name is Korosh ERFANI. I am a sociologist and the writer of a few books in philosophy. These books had been published in the frame of a center that is called the Center for Research and Development of Infinitology. And this center has a website that you can visit to see what is the content, what is the mission of this center, and how probably you want to have any collaboration or partnership with this center, because we are eager to work with anyone who is interested in the question of the infinity and its application. So this is the homepage of the website and the CRDI.com. You can go there, and there is the videos to watch about the Infinitology and the activity, and also other elements. There is a part called About Us with a detailed explanation of the center and its activities. There are the publications that we are going to talk about. As you can see, there are several books, and I will present briefly today these books so that you can have an idea about our publication. And as I told you, there are also some topics regarding the collaboration of the people or the institution with the CRDI, and you have also the possibility to contact us. So this is the website that is available for anyone who is interested in what we are going to say about the infinity and infinitology. So let me explain you that all our creation come from the idea of a philosophical theory called infinitism. Infinitism is the theory according to which everything is infinite or is not. So you can find the infinity everywhere in the universe, in the microcosmos or the macrocosmos. So everywhere you see, you watch, you look at, you can find a trace of what we call infinitude in action. This is the kind of definition for the infinity, is the infinitude in action, which means that there is inside any phenomenon an action that is going, and we will explain what we mean by action. So the theory of infinitism, by understanding what's going on inside of the matter, tries to see if this infinitude in action can be used, can be utilized by the human beings in order to find everything we want. Because if the universe is infinite, it means that there is no any limitation to what we want to obtain from the universe, what we want to gain from the material world. So if there is no limitation, it means that we can have infinite materials, infinite energy, infinite resources, everything we want, and endlessly. So based on this idea, infinitism suggests to change effectively our worldview, right, and to deal differently with the material world. So which means that everything that we created as science, technology, knowledge, and so on can be effectively reviewed with this infinitist perspective, with the idea that everything is infinite, and we can effectively work on the reality of the infinitude within the matter. So the difference between the infinitism with a lot of other worldviews, school of thoughts, school of philosophies, or ideologies is that infinitism believes in the operational character of the infinity, which means that so far we try to see infinity as an abstract concept, as a kind of speculation about about what we cannot see, what we cannot touch beyond the material reality. But infinitism put the infinity at the disposal of the human being, right? And infinity becomes something that we can understand, but also we can operate on, right? We can change it, we can modify it, and we can obtain everything we want. Why? Because infinitude in action within the matter is going on, and it could be mastered, it could be known, and it could be modified. That's the idea of infinitism. And if we can effectively operate over the infinitude in action, it means that we can obtain everything we want infinitely, right? Resources, materials, stuff, and energy, and so on. So that's a huge claim, That's a fundamental change in the way we are dealing with the universe. So that's why we need effectively to prove that it can work. It's not enough to say that everything is infinite. It's also important to show it materially, tangibly, technically, and scientifically. So that's why we have, beside the infinitism, a field of knowledge, a new discipline that is called Infinitology. And through Infinitology, we try to understand what's going on inside of the material world, right, inside the universe. And through this knowledge, we try to interfere and operate on the inner structure of matter. That's the task of Infinitology. That's why for each of these topics, beyond the Center for Research and Development of Infinitology, we have other websites that you can see. For the infinitism, it's www.infinitism.info that explain this theory. And also for Infinitology, we have another website, www.infinitology.com, which is purely dedicated to this new discipline. So, all of these proposals, suggestions, theories are gathered and institutionalized inside a center that is called Center for Research and Development of Infinitology. So I have to say that we established this center as a framework, but as you know, to have a real institution with the staff, with the people who are working there as specialists, as theoreticians, as philosophers, scientific, and so on, we need budget. And that's why we are trying to present our work here and there in order to attract the people to see what is the usefulness of what we are suggesting, in order to attract also not only the brain but also the money, right? And put together we can effectively create this Center for Research and Development of Infinitology in the real world, not only in the virtual world, and then we can work on this subject. So this is not an easy task. This is not an easy undertaking. That's why we started in 2021 to gather all the ideas that we had before and to combine them, to compile them, and to present them as a few books. And in this video I am presenting these books to you in order to see how you can effectively take some, maybe interest in this or that book. Let's start with the first one that explain the main theory, the philosophical theory of infinitism, and from that book you can have an idea about what's going on and how you can effectively be familiar with the theory of infinitism. So that's the first book, Infinitism, and there is a subtitle, let me show you. It's called How to Make Infinity Your Philosophy for Life. So the format and the presentation that I choose to suggest this theory of infinitism is not like the classic book of philosophy, with a very strict and very classic presentation with a very hard concept for the people. No, in this book I try to tell a kind of a story. This is the story of some people who are looking for a worldview because they don't want to be lost in a very evolving and changing world, and they need absolutely a worldview so that they can make sense of their life. They want to give some meaning to their life. So that's why they try to see if they can they can create a theory or a worldview, right? And from that moment they start to have the conversation, the regular conversation gathering, during which they try to see if there are some concepts that can be as the substructure of their building of worldview, and they choose effectively the concept of infinity, and based on that they build a new philosophy for life up, and they get the infinitism. So the reason for which I wanted to present the first version of infinitism in this language was that my objective for working on this subject in this topic was effectively to help the world that is, according to a lot of people, scientific analysts, futurists, in danger. Our world is effectively at risk, and we have lots of problems. We have the climate change, we have the pandemic, we have the economic inequality, we have the economic crisis, we have the possibility of the Third World War, So that's why we need to change the way that we are looking at world in such a way that we can avoid the collapse that is waiting for the world, right? Because every realistic view is telling us that the world is going toward a collapse. We cannot really keep going like that. It's impossible because we depleted the resources, because we damaged the earth, we damaged nature, we created the climate change, and we have to pay the cost. So if we keep going with the way that we were viewing the world, that would be a catastrophe. That would be the end of the world in a way or in another. So that's why we need a real change. And this change should be first a philosophical change, which means the vision that we have about the universe, about the world, about the nature, about the human beings, about our civilization and anything. So that's the task of philosophy. No science can produce that. So that's why infinitism considers itself as a philosophical theory that wants to suggest something different from what we had already. So that's why if you read this book, you will see that step by step, by going through the different reality of the material world, these people who are the fictitious characters of this story find finally a very good opening from which they can see the world differently. This is a new worldview, and we call that infinitism. It's suggesting that we can change everything, we can modify everything we want, and that's why we have just to make knowledge, to take knowledge of the infinity. Infinity is there, the infinitude in action is within matter, but we ignore that and we created a damaging and almost collapsing world. So if we start to learn more and more realistically about the infinity, we can effectively save our worlds. That's the idea of the infinitism. But you remember, we said that this is the claims, these are the assertions, these are the statements of infinitism. And you can have all the details in these books. But we need the proof. We need to know how we can understand the infinity, how we can operate on infinity, how we can use that, finally, how we can employ our knowledge over infinity and obtain what we want. So that's why we needed a new discipline, right? A different discipline that can effectively help us to create something different as sciences and knowledge that we had already. We needed something better, something more profound, deeper, and with a different vision. So that's why we went through a process to create a new discipline. This discipline is called Infinitology. So that's why the second book that we published was about the Infinitology. And we did that with and the idea that a new discipline can be created, can be established. And we tried to work on that, and it gave birth to this book that is the first book on Infinitology with the subtitle Foundations of New Discipline. So in this book we try to show that when it's a question of the infinity, there are the rules, there are what we can say the laws of infinity, right? There are several statements, there are several assertions, right, that are establishing a theoretical system that explains what is infinity and how the infinity is acting. Because as you know, the infinity had been usually and up to now treated essentially by philosophy, but as a speculative and abstract concept, or by the pure mathematics, right? And we didn't find any application for the infinity. We thought that we can never touch infinity because infinity is infinite and nobody can finally grasp something that is infinite. That's not true. Infinity is the only reality of the material world. It's the only reality of the matter. So that's why we can effectively, if we work with the matter, if we manipulate the material things, the material phenomena, so it means that we are working unconsciously with the infinitude, because we show in this book and other books that what's going on ontologically, if you want to have an idea about the ontology of matter, it's only and only through the infinitude. You cannot find anything that could be comprehensive and wide-ranging, wide encompassing, but infinity for explaining the structure of matter in the inner levels of its configuration. There's only and only through infinity that you can do that. So that's why we need effectively to have a knowledge of infinity that is a systematic, a methodical knowledge of infinity, and not just ideas or abstraction or imagination. We need to touch the infinitude as materiality, as actuality. And that's why Infinitology tries to treat infinity as something that we can touch, that we can work, that we can modify. That's the idea of the Infinitology. And I explain it in this book. The premises, the introduction, and the basic concepts are presented in this book, Infinitology, Foundations of a New Discipline. But we didn't stop there. We went through these assertions and we developed them. By developing them, we got another ideas and findings, and we presented them in another book that is called Infinitude in Action. We got that in another book that is called, before that, that is called Basis of Infinitology. Now let me show you the subtitle. You can see what is the question about. The subtitle is Why and How to Study Infinity. So you see that in the first book we try to just to ground the basis, the first concepts, the first ideas of Infinitology, in that book, Infinitology, Foundations of a New Discipline. If you want to have a discipline that treats infinity, what are the conditions? What are the foundations? What are the main ideas? But in the next book, this one, in the Basis of Infinitology, we could effectively answer to that question, why and how to study infinity. So we explain the reasons for which we should effectively go through the more acquaintance, more knowledge about the infinity, and also not only emphasizing the necessity of doing so, but how to do so, how to study the infinity, how to study infinitude in action within matter, how to go through the material world and find infinity and work on that. That's the ideas of this book, Basis of Infinitology, right? All right, when we did that, we could see that there is any limit for treating the infinity, which means that we can work on the different aspects of the infinitude in action. When we talk about the infinitude within matter, it's a question of something very precise. In the next book, which is the book called Infinity in Action, and let me show you this one, Infinitude in Action. In this book, we come through the idea of the Infinitology, the topic of the Infinitology, and we try to show that the subject of the Infinitology is something tangible. So look at the subtitle of the book, Exploration and Utilization of Infinity. So you see that we are trying to show that infinity is not the concept coming from the, I don't know, for example, ancient Greece, treated by Aristotle, by other Greek philosophers, and just as a concept, as an idea, but sunk in the imagination of the philosophers. No, it's not that. Infinity is a reality that can be treated under microscope, that can be seen through the telescope. You can see that, you can treat that, and not only this, you can use that. You can explore it and you can utilize it. That's the idea explained in this book, Infinitude in Action, with several scientific details about how the infinitude could be effectively treated. And when we are talking about the infinitude in action, we mean infinity. Infinity is not only a concept, but is the most material reality that you can find in the universe. And you can grasp the complexity of that, and then you can conceive the ways, the methods to treat that, to work on that, to change it, to modify it, to utilize it. Utilize it for what? For creating whatever you want, and as much as you want, as many as you want, anything. This is the capacity of the universe. This is the capacity of the matter. And we have to explore it, and we can to utilize it. Why? Because it's endless. The idea of the infinitism that is treated by Infinitology is very simple. You can find several infinite aspects in any phenomenon. In any phenomenon. First, the number of the components of a phenomenon is infinite. The number of the elements, the constitutive elements, the components of a phenomenon whatsoever, the number of components and subcomponents is infinite. That's the first aspect of infinitude in action. The second, the interrelations between these components and subcomponents are also infinite. The number of interconnection, interrelation, interactions between the components and subcomponents is just infinite. That's the second aspect of infinity as a material reality in the universe. And third, the ways these interconnection, these interrelations are done, are shaped, this is also infinite. The number of the ways these interrelations can take shape is infinite. So, three different aspects of infinitude in action within the matter, which means that if we go through the fabric of matter, fabric of reality, we will see the infinite number of component and subcomponent, the infinite number of interrelation between the component and subcomponents, and also the infinite number of the ways these interrelations are done. So we have three different spheres, three different fields of seeing infinitude in action within matter. And we can, this is what Infinitology is suggesting, we can go through the different mechanism that is going on within the matter, and we can intervene on this process, on this ongoing, endless process that we call infinitude in action. So, It's not only question of taking knowledge of that, to equate in that, but also to operate on that, to modify that, to go through it, to find where we can interfere, when we can intervene, and when we can modify, when we can alter the structure and the interrelations and the way these interrelations are done. So either we can change the component and the subcomponent, or we can change the interrelation between the component and subcomponents, or finally we can change the ways these interrelations and interactions are done. So that is the uncountable number of possibilities for the human beings to go through the nature, to go through the world and obtain everything he wants, everything they want, and as much as they want. So the human beings don't have through the nature and the material world any limitation. So if we think that there are the limitations for the materials, for the resources, for the energy and so on, these limitations are all created by our mind. These are the abstract limitations. These are not the limitations of the material world. So which means that if there is anything limited, is not the real world, is our subjective world. Our subjectivity is imposing the limitation to the world through the misconception of what is going on in the nature, in the universe, and within matter. But if we can effectively get rid of this misconception and the false statements that we created for ourselves, either under the name of ideology, philosophy, even science, if we are freed of all of these misconceptions and restricting notions, then we can discover the reality and the materiality of the infinity, and we can do anything we want. So all of this stuff, I explained it because I wanted to show what is the adventure, what is the journey for starting the idea of the infinitism and then creating and establishing a new discipline called Infinitology. I explained all of these in a book, another book, and that is called The Project of Infinitism. Let me show you the cover, and you will see that this is also interesting. Project of Infinitism, because I conceived this philosophical theory of infinitism as a project, not as an idea. And that's why the subtitle of the book, as you can see, is how to transform your ideas into project, right? How to transform your project, your ideas into project. So, as I said the motivation to create this theory of infinitism was effectively to help to solve the global problems, the problems of our today's world. And that's why, in order to solve a problem, not only you need the ideas, but the projects. You need the practical projects that can be realized, that can be achieved, and can change effectively the world. Right? So, how I started that, what I am suggesting as a project is explained in this book, Project of Infinitism. Right? And you can see why I, as a sociologist, I went looking for the solution in philosophy, what I found there, and therefore what I created as a theory that can be transformed in a practical project to change the situation, the global situation. So I suggest that those who are interested in these ideas to go through the the lecture of these books. I put already many information about all the topics I talked about on these 3 websites. The first website is, as you can see, in the CRDI.com, and I will explain what the center is going to do. The other website that you can consult is www.infinitology.com and also www.infinitism.info. In these 3 websites you will find many ideas, many information regarding all you can find in these books. But the books, 5 books as a total, are there to give you an idea about what's going on regarding the world, the situation in the world, the problems that we have, and how we can deal with that. That's the content of the first book, Infinitism, that I explained in this book called Infinitism: How to Make Infinity Your Philosophy for Life. So that's the website of the CRDI. I told you that we have a center that is called the Center for Research and Development of Infinitology. The website for this center is the CRDI.com. And in this website, you have the page of the publication where you have all these books. Infinitism, the first book of the Infinitology for foundation of this new discipline, then the basis of Infinitology to explain why and how to study infinity, and then very practical book of Infinitude in Action, about exploration and utilization of infinity. And finally, all these project is explained in this book, Project of Infinitism, how to transform your ideas into project. That is also useful for those who have the great ideas and they want to make them useful for other people. I explain what they can do based on the experience of what we are doing for the project of Infinitism. That's the website of the Center for Development, Center for Research and Development of Infinitology. So this center effectively can be very useful for those who know that any project needs to be institutionalized. Any project can be realized only and only if you have the sense of organization, creating an institution, organizing the activity, raising funds, hiring the people, and working on the projects in order to make it seriously, right? You cannot just consider it as a, how can I say, an individual adventure. It cannot work. There were a lot of brilliant ideas that went nowhere finally, end up to, just archives and history. Why? Because they could not effectively find the way to be institutionalized, to be realized. And you can do it by organizing it. So that's why we created this center for research and development of Infinitology, and we try to go through all the steps that are necessary for an institutionalized project. As long as the work that you want to do on a very good idea, very genius idea, is not institutionalized, is not structured, is not organized, so you cannot do that. It should be in the framework of establishment. You should have the structure, you should have the management, you should have the administration, you should have the finance, you should have the resources, everything you need in order to keep going with time and with all that you have to do in order to achieve your objective, your goal. So that's why what we could do, we have done, and we are doing that. This video is a proof of what we want to do, just to find the possibility of using the reality of the infinity, which means infinitude, in action within the material world. If we can do that, based on the theory of infinitism, we can have all the resources that we need. We can have as much as material stuff, energy, resources that we need, as much as we want for everyone, for any project. There wouldn't be any notion of scarcity anymore, any notion of shortage, any notion of limitation. So imagine that a world of affluence and prosperity, where everything is possible, every project can be achieved. We wouldn't depend anymore on putting years and years to find the resources to make, for example, this marvelous project of the telescope James Webb that we did, and we sent finally after 30 years of work and time in order to prepare that. It's true that it takes time when you want to make a perfect work, but also it lasts 30 years because of the money. And we think that the money is something limited. Why? Because we think that what we can obtain by money is limited. And this idea of the limitation-oriented mindset that we have keep us in this world with lots of problems and a very dark future. So we can change that. We can change that if we start to believe in the limitlessness of the material resources. If we believe that the world, the material world, is giving us anything we want, as much as we want, we have just to find that, to find how to do so. And that's why I started this project with the idea of the infinitism and with Infinitology as a practical discipline that can become later an academic discipline to see how we can realize this project, how we can achieve this goal. So that's why I have two recommendations. First, please go to the website, the CRDI.com, and see if you can find something interesting or not. If not, so bad for me and for this project. But if you think something interesting, please be active. Be active for. I don't want any help. I don't want any specific thing. I want just to have your interest in this project. So I recommend, that's just the recommendation, the suggestion. I recommend that you go through these books and see if you can find something interesting or not. These books are on the website, the CRDI.com, with a few explanations, and you can order them, you can buy them and read them. I hope that one day I have the financial support to publish them for free, but right now, in order to have a minimum financial support for this Center for Research and Development of Infinitology, we need to sell this book. But later, for sure, we will put that at the disposal of the people for free. We will make them accessible for free for the people. So we need the people who can write about these subjects, who can review this book, who can criticize this book. We need the people who are working on the subject of infinity, infinito, or the different aspects of infinity in science, in philosophy, mathematics, and so on. That's the objective of the center, the CRDI. Also, I don't hide that. That's the true. We are living in the capitalist world. We need the financial support. We need the donation, the grants, or any material help to move forward with this project. So that's the effort of one of the world citizens that I am for doing something good to this world. But I hope that I won't be alone in this adventure, in this journey, right? Because we are living in a world of inequality, in a world of the climate change, global warming, the possibility of having a very destructive world war, and a lot of other issues, right? So we have to do something. This is what I am doing, and I hope that we can join together and we can move forward together. Thank you very much for watching this video, and please through the website, crdi.com, you can be in contact if you have any question, any suggestion, any idea, anything that can help to improve what we are doing. That would be welcome. Thank you so much, and I will present other videos. I will make a set of videos for explaining with more details about these books, and I hope that you can also find any interest in this project. Thank you very much, and bye.